The church today celebrates the three hierarchs. Three out of the multitude, the thousands of saints, the millions of saints, three were selected by the fathers of the church, by the saints of the church, to be the premier hierarchs, to be the most profound theologians and educators in the patristic tradition of the church. Three hierarchs selected by the rest of the hierarchs to be the ones who illumine, and they were called the three greatest illuminators of the triune divinity. So as the divinity illumines all of us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, they reflect that sacred illumination through their wisdom, their God-given talents and gifts to all of us. Who were the three hierarchs? Saint Basil the Great, Saint John Chrysostom, and Saint Gregory the Theologian. Them three have been selected by the church for their contribution, for the fact that we even celebrate the service that we do every Sunday out of the compilation that they came up with. St. John Chrysostom and St. Basil the Great are the two liturgies that we celebrate most frequently in the faith since ancient Christianity, since their time. And of course, not only they gave us a magnificent wisdom, writings and books that are prominent in the faith, from the book of marriage of St. John Chrysostom, which if anyone reads it cover to cover and practices what it incorporates, I guarantee you your home will be blessed. Your marriage, your family will be beautiful and happy and joyous and blessed by God. And St. Gregory the Theologian, great book on raising the children, poetic anthology on how to raise children. Also, St. Basil the Great, beautiful writings on the cultivation of the youth. St. Basil the Great also said we ought to be like the bee that goes from flower to flower and selects the best and only the best to create the sweetest nectar. So St. Basil is also advocating for education, for illumination, for all of us to go and select the best from the best writings, incorporate it in our lives. And the wisdom of the church has so much to offer, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and all the way to the patristic documents and those writings of the theologians and the services and worship of the church. Today, as we celebrate the three hierarchs, we celebrate the Greek letters. And what are the Greek letters that we celebrate? The culture, the philosophy, the science from ancient times that was also embraced by the fathers of the church, as St. Basil also advocated and promoted his students to read the ancients, indeed. But also, let's not forget that this is the foundation of universal letters. It's not just the writings and the philosophy and the science from one era and one region. Because even the alphabet we use in the Latin languages, in the English and Anglo-Saxonic languages, is derivative of the Greek alphabet. In the Slavonic languages is also derivative of the Greek alphabet. That thanks to these letters, the Bible was written. Even the Old Testament, we know that it was translated by the Septuagint in Greek, and that's why we never lost it in Alexandria. That's why also the New Testament was written in Greek, and as it was back then the universal language, it followed the path of Alexander the Great, so that the New Testament and the Gospel and the epistles of the apostles can go and traverse from nation to nation, from region to region, and Christianize the ecumeny, the world. So yes, it is a celebration not just of Greek letters, but universal letters, of not just Greek education, but education par excellence. It is an education that we receive through the church and through also secular wisdom that has been embraced by the church and also promoted by the church, because all the sciences are blessed by church. Every year, at the beginning of the year, we bless our students, because everything they learn in school is and ought to be for the betterment of our youth. And everything we learn in Sunday school, church school, and Greek school is and ought to be for their spiritual edification and cultivation. The three hierarchs became the esteemed professors of the ecumeny, because we need education, and good education. And of course, if I read St. John Chrysostom, how critical he was of his secular leadership at the time and the unjust things that they did in the 4th century that cost him his life. He died in exile, in extreme persecution, twice. Although he was a patriarch, he died in exile. Why? Because he went against the secular leadership. But this is the right thing to do. When the leadership does not serve the people, we ought to speak. And we ought to say right and discern right from wrong for the betterment and the future of our children. We owe it to them. St. John Chrysostom did that and died for that. St. Basil the Great gave up all his belongings, everything he owed, to build the Βασιλιάς, the greatest philanthropic institution in the history of the world, that was almost like a small city with thousands of people served on a daily basis, from orphans and widows and old age homes and hospitals and everything imaginable. The first such institution in the history of the world, the first philanthropic organized edifice in the history of humanity. And St. Gregory the theologian, who teaches us such humility, he avoided to become a hierarch. And indeed, when the church gave him that distinction, he served as a hierarch, but also as a monk. Gives us all an admonition of how we should be as clerics, as laity, as people of God, humble and sincere in our vocation. So study them, my dearest. Study the three hierarchs. Study their writings, their wisdom. Take it all in. They illuminate throughout the ages. They illuminate the world. They illuminate as the three great illuminators of the triune Son of the Divinity. Σήμερα, αγαπητοί αδελφοί, θα ζητήσω από την αγάπη σας να κάνουμε